Welcome to our deep dive into the Gran Turismo series and what made the games so great, from their explosion onto the scene in the early 90s to their huge presence in the esports scene of the modern day. Our third video dives into the best-selling Gran Turismo game of all time, which came shortly after the release of the PlayStation 2, and thanks to the new hardware, boy was it a leap forward. With the arrival of the PlayStation 2, Gran Turismo was about to enter an entirely new generation. First unveiled at the E3 show in 2000, Gran Turismo 2000 was intended for release with the launch of Sony's new console. The now 50-strong Polyphony Digital team had worked on the title since the completion of Gran Turismo 2, and the new PlayStation hardware brought significant advances for the traditional hallmarks of the Gran Turismo series, with markedly enhanced physics and visuals. Although storage capacity had increased on the new console, the improved car models resulted in diminished numbers. GT3 packed in just under 200 cars and 20 tracks. What the game lacked in scale, it made up for in innovation. New to the GT series were open-wheel cars modelled after Formula 1 machines driven by Nigel Mansell, Ayrton Senna and Damon Hill. If you were lucky enough to get a Japanese version of GT3, you would also discover the series' first Lamborghini, not to be seen again until Gran Turismo PSP came out nearly a decade later. Another first for the GT series was the appearance of wet racing. The special stage Route 5 track had a variant with a wet surface, which drastically changed the handling of cars and kicked up a cloud of spray behind them. GT3 also introduced the data analyzer function, allowing you to look at speed, acceleration and braking information. You could even compare 2 laps of the same circuit to improve your performance. The most interesting new feature introduced by GT3 was network capability. Using a system called iLink, players could connect 6 PlayStation 2s together for live on-track battles. The game drew cars from the player's arcade mode. The more you had completed, the more cars were available to you. With so many significant improvements, Gran Turismo 3 set new records for the series, selling 14.89 million copies and became one of the highest-selling console games of all time. As of September 2012, GT3 had still sold more copies than any other Gran Turismo game. Gran Turismo 3 featured 19 tracks, largely drawing on the track list from previous games. With the additional reverse versions, the game has a total of 26 variations of circuit. Autumn Ring and High Speed Ring, present in the first 2 games, were absent from GT3, along with many short variations of other tracks. Special Stage Route 11 reappeared, albeit in an updated format. Though the number of tracks was cut, many fan favourites remained and future staples of the series were added. Côte d'Azur, an interpretation of the classic Monaco Grand Prix circuit, was introduced to complement the game's formula cars. Similarly, Tokyo Route 246, based on the streets around the Sony Computer Entertainment offices in Tokyo, debuted in GT3. Complex String, a grueling test course comprising of a series of sections of various corner types linked together, appeared only in Gran Turismo 3. The Gran Turismo license test format returned for GT3 and, for the first time, included a wholly separate rally license. With just 8 tests in each of the 5 track licenses and 1 rally license, there were 48 tests in total, each giving the player valuable experience and granting access to faster and richer race series. Unlike previous GT titles, Gran Turismo 3 united all of the game's races under one icon. Within this, the series were divided into beginner, amateur and professional, with the addition of endurance and rally. These events approximately corresponded with license requirements. Manufacturer events, as in GT2, were no more, but some were retained within the new structure. Gran Turismo 3 offered a wider variety of events, with series for specific marks, models and even branding. Along with power-limited events, which were a staple of GT2, new events catered specifically to untuned cars. The opportunity to simply overpower the opposition in most races was diminished, lending a more progressive feel to the game. GT3 also provided events at multiple skill levels. The same series would appear at different levels to give a different challenge, and even introduced an unlockable event. The final event in the Professional League was hidden until the player had completed the appropriate Super License test. Gran Turismo 3's arcade mode is unique in the series today in that it contributes completion percentage towards the game and, by finishing it totally, provides additional cars for the game's iLink network mode for group play. The main arcade mode, Single Race, is divided into 6 areas of tracks. By completing an area on easy difficulty, you unlock the following area, while completing an area on normal or hard difficulty awards bonus arcade mode cars. The cars are divided into 5 classes, though you are also able to use your simulation mode garage as well. They're split from beginner cars in Class C through to the sports cars in Class A, race cars in Class S, and rally cars in Class R. The vehicle class you use has no bearing on either the completion percentage or the cars awarded. Easy races are 2 laps, normal races are 3 laps, and hard races are 5 laps, or 4 for rally. There is also a professional difficulty, accessible by holding down the L1 and R1 buttons on the controller together, which adds tyre wear, except for rally mode, and increases the lap count to 10, and 5 for rally. Professional races, however, add no completion to either arcade mode or your overall completion percentage. There are also 10 time attack or time trial challenges, each of which grants completion percentage towards the game total, and a bonus car to use in the main game mode. Although Gran Turismo 3 featured fewer cars than its direct predecessor, it increased the number of vehicle manufacturers in the game to more than 40. Australian and Belgian manufacturers were introduced for the first time, and, if you owned a Japanese copy of the game, Lamborghini with the JGTC Nomad Diablo. Despite the reduced selection, the variety of cars in the game was greatly enhanced, as diverse models from each manufacturer were carefully selected by Polyphony Digital. All of the previous classes of cars were present, now with the addition of open-wheel Formula cars. The 6 Formula cars represented real F1 cars of the 6-cylinder turbo era from 1986 to 1988, along with cars from the 1990 to 1994 V10 era, as driven by Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell and Damon Hill. However, these were replaced in the PAL or worldwide versions with just one car from each era, renamed as Polyphony 002 and Polyphony 001 respectively. Race modifications were dropped from GT3, but most of the other aspects of tuning remained, with players able to add significant components to each of the most mundane cars while adjusting their configuration to suit each track. New to the tuning arsenal was the oil change. As a car's mileage accumulated, players could break in the engine to generate more power and torque, or wear out the engine and harm performance. By changing the oil regularly, GT3's cars could be kept in top condition for longer. Also absent from GT3 was the concept of purchasing used cars. All cars now were either available to buy from the dealerships or could be won. Prize cars were delivered in broken-in and thus highest stock power condition. This makes Gran Turismo 3 the only full GT game to date where you couldn't shop around to pick up a cheap used car at a bargain price. The game remains a fan favourite to this day, but when you speak to anybody about the franchise, there's a high chance that it's only pipped at the post by one single instalment, and that's the one that followed a few years later. Join us next time on GT Planet and find out how and why Gran Turismo 4 continued to raise the bar.